Hi, welcome to In the Arena. I'm your host, Mindy McAlindon. Today we have with us Tamara Scott. Tamara is a national advocate for faith, family, and freedom. She is the host of the Tamara Scott Show, and she is also Iowa's National Committeewoman for the Republican Party. She brings such a strong voice to cultural and political issues, and I think you'll really enjoy what she has to say. So, Tamara, welcome.
Hello, Mindy. Thank you for the invitation. And I love getting to see your promo and see you in all those action shots. I saw you with your friend, Judge Webb, when you were putting your hand on the Bible for your oath.
Oh, yes, you served with Doyle.
Right. So that was just a good memory. But thank you, one, for the invitation. And two, thank you for everything you do. You're a powerhouse and well respected.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you for that. Well, I am so excited to have you here. I certainly enjoyed getting to know you within the RNC, and so I look forward to this continued conversation. So let's start. You are very involved in faith issues and political issues in Iowa and nationally. So just give me a brief history of like how you got there, and then tell us a little bit about your show.
How I got here, people ask that, and of course, there's a long trail across the way. But here's the basic. I just wanted to raise my kids in the way I saw fit, in the admonition of the Lord. I wanted them to get a good education. And frankly, government just wouldn't stay out of my way. I'd go to the school and I'd hear, well, the state this or the government this. And so I just started digging into, of course, we got into the school board elections and I hosted a debate on who was running. And I really irritated the inside folks on the school because this no name was getting involved in their elections. I just wanted to know who was running, what their views were, what they thought. So that's how I got involved. They wouldn't leave me alone.
Wow. Well, good for you. That is fantastic. And then you started your show, the Tamara Scott Show. We talked about this about 26 years ago.
In 98, I started filling in for a guest host. Here's the deal. I was in the car and I was having a conversation with the Lord. I don't know if you do that. It wasn't a prayer. It was a conversation. And I just said, Lord, help me find ways to help people understand what's going on. I get it, but people don't know what's going on. Well, the next day, an ad in the newspaper for news correspondent. I called her. She hired me on the spot. So now I'm the news corresponding reporter. And I became a staff reporter. Then in a short time, I was directing a musical at the church. And they asked me to do a radio show. So I went to do the radio show. And the lady looked at me afterwards, tears in her eyes, and she said, "You're my replacement."
Oh, wow.
I get teared up when I think about it. I had kids at home. I was a busy mom. The studio was 3 minutes from my house. Mm-hmm. Her show was in the morning. I could go do the show and be back home before my kids were on the bus, or I could get them ready. My husband could put them on the bus. That's how I started 98 years ago. Not until 2007 or so did I start doing my own show, and I called that one Truth for Our Time. My hope was that if somebody took it long after I was gone, my name wasn't on it, right? Mm-hmm. I put my name on it. When the whole internet that whole thing came through, Brandon House wanted me on Lindell Network and wanted me on his network, and he wanted my name. So to my own hesitation, it's the Tamara Scott Show.
Well, I think it's great. And it is interesting to me how much you've accomplished, because you didn't even talk about half the stuff that you have done that I know of. And I know there's so much more because you are truly so humble. So there is some irony to having your name on the show when you tend to always try to shy away from that. So it's kind of funny, actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, I guess.
And you are the National Committeewoman for Iowa, and you've been Committeewoman for how long?
Since 2012, and I'm honored. I'm very honored that the Iowa people trust me in that role, and I get to serve them and help make a difference, right? It's a great way for me to help make a difference. And my husband loves it because I'm gone all the time talking politics. So he doesn't have to deal with it at home.
That is so funny. Well, you do. You wear a lot of hats and you wear them very well. So thank you for all that you do to really continue to drive home conservative principles. I really do appreciate it. So let's talk about some of those. Shall we start with Iowa first, since we brought that up? And talk to me. There's one issue that I've heard you talk about, and I've heard some of the politicians from your state talk about, and actually other states as well, and that is the carbon capture pipeline. Can you just kind of explain what that is and what the issues are?
Yeah, and I am not a farmer, but I've tried to learn, right? I try to be a student. So I've gone to a lot of the meetings where they're talking about this. And here's the deal. The CO2 pipeline, first off, the Sierra Club not usually somebody I'm in the same boat with, came out against this and called it a green scheme. It is not necessary. We do not have to capture CO2. That is the carbon dioxide that we all need, that the plants need to survive, and we need them to survive so that we can get the oxygen. There's not, from what I understand, there's not a surplus of CO2 right now. Nobody needs to take any away. We need more in most places. And so what it is, as happens very often, one of the big donors to the Republican Party in Iowa is also invested in a CO2 pipeline. You all see that. As soon as I say that, you know what I'm talking about. Therefore, a lot of politicians thought that they would just go along with this. The problem is, it is using, or they're trying to use, eminent domain for private gain. Now, in the Constitution, you can use eminent domain for public use, for utilities. And I even have some issue with that, right? If somebody doesn't want to sell out, I think they ought to be able to hold on. Sorry, I do. They'll either become prey in the neighborhood, and the pressure will cause them to do it. I do think that when somebody sells out, there ought to be just compensation. I absolutely agree with that. But to force it for private gain, eminent domain for private gain from these large dollar, high profit corporations who seem to be in the pocket of too many politicians is an issue, right? So this particular issue, there's Sartasha, Mississippi. I don't think I have Sartasha, Mississippi, where the CO2 pipeline exploded. Fumes overtook a community, and people had to be rushed to the hospital. Had it been at night, I think they would have lost people because they would have been sleeping and never known. So it is dangerous. It can be. It's not foolproof, right? And it's not necessary. So there's my two not, right? Then you start going against people on their own farms, and the way they did it was very bully, very aggressive. Jared Bosley out of South Dakota, they literally entered his home and yelled in the door, and I think his wife was in the shower. I mean, it's just really
warrantless, like no warrant,
no,
right
they
to
just
be
came onto
there.
the property. They were just making, and so they in South Dakota had passed some law or court case that surveyors could come on your property without permission. Well, not only did they do that, I had him on air live when this particular surveying company or whoever it was busting through his tree line, digging and drilling 90-foot holes when the pipeline's 6 foot deep. I mean, it was just
on his private property.
His private property. We had him online on the time, trying to stay cool, because they were trying to provoke him into doing something, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole way this has come about has not been civic debate and discussion, right? Mm-hmm. So Iowa has been fighting this. Minnesota, they've not really gotten involved, but there's a corner of Minnesota. South Dakota, North Dakota, great work that they have done. Absolutely great work. South Dakota had 14 incumbents, Republican incumbents, ousted in their last election over the pipeline.
Goodness.
So they were paying attention. North Dakota, I think it might have been their Utilities Commission that first said no. Thankful to them, put that first hesitation up. In Iowa, our Utilities Commission is appointed by the governor, not elected like South Dakota. And there lies one of the problems. So fast forward, if I may, we've been trying to get an eminent domain bill through our legislature for 3 years at least to protect the farmers. We feed the world in Iowa. We get the responsibility of that. And this year, finally, because of 12 courageous Senate Republicans who stood up and said, we're not voting on your budget until you vote on this bill. Our people at least deserve to know where you stand on protecting private property, farmland, and constitutionally. This is a constitutional 14th Amendment provides for protection for property rights and eminent domain. And so the House passed it last year. It went nowhere in the Senate. This year, because of the stand of 12 courageous Republicans, it came for a vote. Democrats joined in. All right, so Mindy, you're a legislator, and thank you for your service. You understand when you have Democrats and Republicans, that's bipartisan. Mm-hmm. We always say we want to have bipartisan legislation. Right. So in our House, 85 to 15, or we hear 10, apparently 5 may not have voted or been excused or something. 85% voted for this, 85 of our 100. In the House, in the Senate, 27 to 22.
Oh, wow.
Democrats went with those, with the time of the vote, it was 11 Republicans. I mean, these folks were beat up, they were challenged, they were threatened. As you know, what happens. The 11 stood strong. One had a health issue, so it wasn't quite on the last vote, and we respect that. We respect that. But the 11 stood with the Democrats, 27-22. The governor just vetoed it.
Oh my goodness.
A governor we love, a governor from this state, but she's not running again. She's not running again. I.e., term limits don't help. They don't solve our problems. They create apathy. And now that you have somebody who knows they're not running again, imagine this for all those people pushing term limits. If we had them at the federal level, you'd have a 6-year lame duck in the U.S. Senate. Imagine the trouble and mischief that would befall upon the American people.
So it is hard. And so first, I appreciate you explaining the carbon capture, because it is that CO2 pipeline. I think what just amazed me when I heard you talk about this the first time in some of your legislative from Iowa as well as from South Dakota, talk about this, about private companies coming on their private property because they felt like the government allowed it was so egregious. And we actually were just talking about within Arkansas, we're out of session, but we were just talking about, do we need to look at warrantless searches and private property rights one more time and make sure, and I brought up the carbon capture, the CO2 pipeline, because it was just so egregious to me that anyone felt like they could do that and the government felt impotent to stop it. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that story, because it's amazing.
Yeah. So hats off to you, because I think you all voted in Arkansas, and I think your governor, tremendous governor, by the way, signed it to not allow foreign properties to buy your farmland.
Correct.
Because that's another part of this. I was just talking with someone today, and they said, these people are going to come in, they're going to invest in this, they're going to get their money out of it. And as soon as they've gotten all the money they can, because they could sell that pipeline to another company, another gas, whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody else takes it. And the people who have the easements lose control of their property. They lose control of the rights. Some people think they can't even sell their property around it. I don't know, but it's miles of pipeline and acres of farmland that we would be losing. And who knows who would be buying. They could resell their portion without any control of the farm. Yeah. And my thought is, we are, not only would I say we feed the world, that's not braggadocious, but that's a weight and a responsibility. Right?
It is.
This isn't just about the money of somebody this year and an easement, the payments that they're going to get, but a farmer is responsible not just for the crop this season, but for the food protection for the future. What are we doing?
Absolutely. And we do have, we're a pretty agriculture state ourselves. We always like to brag. We are the #1 rice producer in the country. But we really do have a lot of good crops. And it is an issue we are constantly facing in Arkansas, too, of how do we protect those farmers? How do we protect their land and help them to do what they do, which is provide for us? And so it is a big issue. You're absolutely right. It is a big responsibility.
And I don't know what it's like in Arkansas, but in Iowa, how do we make it so that someone who wants to get into farming can afford to do so?
Yes.
To inherit the family farm.
Right. New farmers, young farmers can't afford to start it up. They can't afford the equipment. They can't afford the... Yes. Agreed. Those are issues.
Of all the things the U.S. government looks into, and I don't want them in our states, but we have to figure out how we can help those people. It's hard work. You know this.
It is hard work.
You've got dairy cows. You're not going on vacation unless you've got somebody come in every day to milk. It's a whole lot of responsibility. But what do we do to help those people provide for us in the future?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. And that really impacts Arkansas as well. So let's jump. I'm trying to decide. We just have so little time. Let's jump to international. Let's talk about Israel, because that obviously is a hot topic right now. And you have been a huge advocate for Israel. I have heard you talk about it. I've heard you pray about it. I know that you are a vocal advocate for Israel. So kind of overall, what is your perspective on what's kind of happening right now with the conflict over there? And, to what degree should Americans be worried about it or paying attention to it? Kind of what are your thoughts on it?
Right. All right. So it is such a sensitive issue, but the Bible tells us God blesses those who bless Israel. Now, that's the Israel people, his chosen people, and we understand the government may not always do things that we absolutely agree with. We get that as well. But let's be honest, if Israel's enemies would lay down their weapons, there would be peace. If Israel lays down their weapons, there'll be no Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they've dealt with since 1948. And so they're under great attack right now. And Iran apparently has been the money behind a lot of these what they call proxy wars and proxy attacks. We've interviewed people who have been under attack. Last week, I interviewed Nicole Jansesian, a journalist on the ground in Jerusalem for our show. And she had the warning to take cover as we were doing the show. They had the warning to take cover. Imagine living like that. Bombs are now coming into, or missiles or whatever it is now coming into, listen to me, whatever it is. I'm not military, but they're now under threat like never before. So here's the deal. We have a president who also understands that he needs to support Israel, move the embassy, all the good things that he did for Israel and the Israeli people during his first administration speaks for itself. But he's also trying to keep America out of a war while supporting our ally. Right. And so some people have said, if, China's waiting before they attack Taiwan to see how America is going to support Israel. We get all of that. Right. So America is doing what they can. I don't think we know everything America is doing. And in this age of transparency, being so unsettled with what we saw in the last administration, I get that we want to know. I also get sometimes we can't know right away. Right. So I do think that the president is wisely doing what he can, and I think he will do what he needs. But I think the rest of us understand we don't want to be involved in one more war that is not ours to fight if we can prevent that. In the same time, Netanyahu, this is his opportunity, as Dr. Mark Christian said on my show last week, this is his opportunity to undo every enemy that he possibly can during the moment right now. And he needs to. There's nothing worse than calling a ceasefire, which is just nothing more than giving the enemy time to rearm. We can't do that. So ask Mark Christian. Some people say Israel can't last 2 weeks by itself. Others say Iran is falling. Which is it? And he says, yes, and.
Fascinating.
God has been with the people of Israel in tremendous ways throughout time. And we're going to trust God to continue to be with the people of Israel in tremendous ways. And here's my prayer. In all of this, you've heard me pray it. Reveal truth, expose falsehoods, and may God expose those who have ill motives and ill gain and cause justice.
Yeah, I think that's a real faithful prayer to pray. I do appreciate those insights that you give, especially from some other people that you have spoken to. The president is just walking such a thin tightrope. Just to how do I, as you said, not get us into another war, but yet still support our allies. And I think Israel is one of our greatest allies and has been for decades and decades. And so incredibly important. And yet then knowing that we have another enemy who is watching and waiting to pounce at any sign of weakness. And so it is just, I cannot imagine the amount of information coming in. I would be remiss if I didn't brag on the new ambassador to Israel, who is obviously an Arkansan, and our governor's father, Governor Mike Huckabee, or now Ambassador Mike Huckabee, but tremendous statement that he made. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Tremendous statement.
We're so thankful he's there. But just what he said, and I don't have it right in front of me, but just the way he said to the president, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to pray that God speaks to you and you hear him. Wow. Goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
That all of us would have someone in our corner praying that for us. Yes. I am so thankful Mike Huckabee is in the position he is. You're going to make me cry. Thankful for him that he's just been such a blessing to this country. We didn't always agree on everything. Bless his heart, when he was running for president, he called me and he would let me just say, here, blah, blah, blah. And he changed his views on some of it. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. What's the saying? When someone realizes they're in error, that they either change their opinion or they cease being honest.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And he is, and I know we're totally off topic now, but I love just the timing of him becoming ambassador, because this was not something he sought. This was just kind of like God orchestrated all these things. And so now you have a man who can truly be an ambassador, a representative of America to Israel without any, he's got no other job he wants to get. There's no ladder climbing to be done, nothing to prove, and it is the perfect timing for him to be there. It's amazing, really.
I'm so glad
I shouldn't be amazed.
I'm so glad you said that about no ladder to climb, because that's exactly what I was thinking. He's the perfect man. If you know him, and I'm not in his inside circle, I'm not pretending that, but he always speaks He's got that pastoral counseling.
Yes.
He's got the grandpa wisdom, and he's got that humor. I don't know if that's Arkansas humor or what, but he can just say things that other people couldn't say. And so it's perfect for him to be here at this moment in time because, as you said, he is not climbing a ladder.
No.
He is here to be a steward of all that God has given us in the land of Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to sum up that whole topic. Well, we are just running through time fast. I do want to just mention, because I'm going to come back to you in the spring to talk with you again, because you are the first in the country caucus, right? You do the first in the country, first in the nation. And so I think we're going to come back when we get to the primary season. I will highly look forward to hearing what you have to say. I guess it's a couple years away, but we will be back. I think we should talk about it this coming spring when we have our regular primaries ahead of the presidential primaries. And
Right.
I think that would be fun to visit and just talk through that process, because people get confused on what the processes are, as I do sometimes. So,
and you came for our last caucus. You were here. It was fun having you there.
So cold. I have never been so cold. I am not lying. I called my husband and I'd be like, it's 45 below. I'm like, I'm 80 degrees colder than where you are, and you're only like 200 miles away. It's unbelievable. And your people turned out.
Yes, in big numbers, in huge numbers.
Big numbers.
We, again, in Iowa, we are honored to be first in the nation. It's not that we think we deserve to be in any way. We're honored. We understand we don't pick the candidate, but we vet every candidate. And what you saw in that whole blustery night, we do all 2 years ahead of time. We're in today's 98 degrees. If there were a candidate here, there'd be somebody in a barn somewhere, or a garage somewhere, or a pasture somewhere, or a pizza ranch restaurant listening to a candidate on a hot sunny day. Maybe because we don't have beaches like some of the other states or mountains to climb. We put our heart and soul into this. We take it seriously.
It was amazing. I will say, when you say you vet the candidates, I've heard that for years, right? But when I went there, I was like, holy cow. These candidates it is Joe Schmo comes with a list. He's literally in his overalls, came from the farm that morning, and he's like, I got a list of questions. And he just I was like, oh my, they are asking good, not like, what kind of underwear do you wear? Like they asked Bill Clinton back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, they're asking tough questions. And I thought, maybe I should do a little more homework when I think about my presidential candidates. So it was.
And that carries down every seat that we have: school board, state legislator, city council.
Oh my goodness!
Drilled. You better know, and you're going to get drilled, because And Grassley started our 99 county tour, because he does 99 counties every year. So does Senator Ernst. So does Tamara Scott as National Committeewoman. So we do. And some of our presidents, Michelle Bachmann, Santorum, several others have done as well.
That is so great. It really is. It's amazing how much people just get into those candidates. So I will look forward to just, when y'all are ready to kick off that season, we will kick it off here. And I think that'll be really fun to keep exploring. So let me wrap this up real quick, because I've had you for over 20 minutes and I said it'd be 20 to 25. So I don't want to go long on you. Tell me, what is one thing that you hope to see happen in the next year, whether it's in Iowa, nationally, globally, or even personally, like kind of one thing that you really hope comes to fruition in the next year?
I hope that Congress will codify some of the president's agenda. I'm concerned. We saw this in 2018. We lost an election in the House, U.S. House, because Congress had not come through on the president was doing a lot of executive orders. And we hear concerns about ruling by executive order. But thank heavens he has on so many of these things. But Congress needs to codify and put these things into law. And so I'm hopeful that we can, preserve our Judeo-Christian foundations, but restore our government into the working body it's supposed to be, and reduce it to where it's a limited government that once again fits inside our Constitution. How's that?
I love that. I echo that with you. I would love to see those things come to fruition. That's a great one. Okay, so then my last fun question, which I know you're dreading just a little bit. 3 things that most people don't know about you.
So I said this is probably the most difficult question when I saw that on the sheet. And here's what I'm going to say. The things people don't know about me because I don't want them to.
So that would be 1, 2, and 3 that you don't want people to know.
And I said that to my husband this morning, and cracked up, and he goes, yep, your grandmother, your mother, you, and your daughter. That's all of you right there.
That's so funny. Well, good. At least it's genetic. So that's awesome. Well, good. Well, Tamara, thank you so much for coming on today. I so appreciate it. I always enjoy time with you. I will look forward to, I'll see you in Atlanta.
I so appreciate the work you do. I just love getting to work with you on the RNC. Thank you for the service you give to Arkansas in the legislature and the RNC nationally. Appreciate
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our time today with National Committeewoman Tamara Scott. She is truly a national advocate for faith issues, for political issues. She fights in her state. She works with legislators to help get them educated. She brings issues to the national level to make sure that other people are hearing about what's going on. And she truly is a strong voice for all these cultural and political issues. And she is a grassroots activist. So anyways, I hope you really enjoyed her. Check out her show, The Tamara Scott Show. And I will see you next time on In the Arena.